There is always something suffocating about the beginning of a royal ball. Perhaps it's the weight of tradition, or the way the air hangs too thick with perfume and politeness, or maybe it's the masks, dozens of them, glittering and feathered and lacquered in gold, each one hiding a set of eyes calculating their next move. I've attended this same event every year since I was old enough to be sewn into a corset and trained to smile. And every year, it feels more like performance than celebration. Tonight, the grand ballroom is awash in candlelight, a golden sheen cast over everything. The marble floors, the velvet drapes, the gowns that whisper with each step. There are roses, too many of them, wound into the railings, overflowing from crystal vases, their scent cloying and relentless. Music swells from the far end of the room, a full orchestra playing something elegant and predictable. I stand near the edge of the staircase that descends into the ballroom, watching the scene unfold below like a pageant I've already memorized. My mask is silver, delicate, a filigree of leaves and vines that wrap around my eyes like frost. It's beautiful, but it doesn't feel like me. Nothing tonight does. I am Princess Elena of the House of Viridian, daughter of Dionysio III, and I am tired of pretending this is the world I want to rule. I'm supposed to descend now. The Chamberlain gave me the cue. I know what's expected. Glide gracefully, acknowledge the bows, accept compliments with humility, dance when requested, never let your smile falter. I exhale slowly and begin my descent, each step careful, practiced. Heads turn. It always happens. I've been raised to be looked at, admired, even envied. I don't flinch under their eyes anymore. I let them see what they want, a poised royal, untouchable and composed. But something shifts when I reach the bottom step. A flicker in the crowd. No, not a flicker, her. She's standing across the room, near one of the massive marble columns. Her mask is simple, black, smooth, no feathers or jewels. Her gown is deep crimson, a color too bold for most, yet it doesn't shout for attention. It commands it. Structured at the waist, soft at the hem, it moves like wine being poured slowly. I don't know her. I know almost everyone here, dukes, countesses, ministers' daughters, but not her. And yet the moment our eyes meet, it's like she's the only person in the room. The effect is instant, piercing. Her gaze doesn't flicker away like most do. She holds it, steady, direct. There's no coyness in it, no performance, just presence. Raw, calm, unapologetic. I feel something slip in my chest, a tug low in my abdomen, and my breath stutters without permission. I force myself to look away. I turn politely as a young noble greets me, some viscount from the Northern Isles, and I offer the expected smile, let him flatter me, pretend to be interested in what he's saying about trade routes and harbor alliances. But I feel her watching me. I can't see her now through the crowd, but I know she's there. I sense it, like a second pulse, thrumming somewhere beneath my skin. I excuse myself from the conversation under the guise of needing a refreshment, slipping through the clusters of nobles with practiced ease. I don't go to the refreshment table. I go toward the column where she was standing. She's not there anymore. I glance around subtly, my posture still perfect, my movements still royal, but I'm searching now, not for duty or diplomacy, but for her. Then I see her again, near the dance floor, speaking to a woman I recognize as one of the foreign dignitaries' daughters. She's not smiling, but she's not cold either. There's a sharpness to the way she listens, like she's always evaluating. And then, without warning, her eyes cut to mine again. Like she knew I was watching. Like she's been waiting for it. The rest of the room blurs. Her lips part slightly, not in surprise, but in something else, acknowledgement, recognition. My heartbeat stumbles again. She turns back to her companion, calm as ever, but the glance was deliberate. Meant. I stand there longer than I should. Long enough that my absence is noticed by a courtier who drifts over to ask if I'm feeling well. I nod, recover the mask of royalty, and return to the path I'm meant to follow. Greetings, nods, another shallow conversation. But I can't stop looking for her. She appears and disappears through the crowd, not because she's avoiding me, but because she's unpredictable, untethered. Every time our eyes meet again, I feel it deepen, that strange, wordless pull. Not attraction. Not yet. Something older than that. Recognition. The ballroom shifts as the music changes, the orchestra launching into a structured waltz meant to open the formal dances. I'm summoned to the floor by a diplomat's son, a safe, charming man with no real power but a strong family alliance. I accept. I always do. We begin the steps, graceful, expected, symmetrical. I glide, smile, nod. But I am not here. I am with her, wherever she is in this room. And then, as the pattern of the dance rotates couples across the floor, I see her again. She's dancing now. Not with me. Not yet. But close. Her movements are smooth, not overly trained, but natural, instinctive. Her partner says something. She barely reacts. Her eyes are on me again. The music carries us apart. I lose sight of her once more. When the song ends, I thank my partner and retreat to the edge of the room, near the musicians. I need air, but I won't leave. She's still here. Somewhere. And I know, somehow, this night is no longer about diplomacy or legacy or duty. It's about her. And what I felt when she looked at me, like the first inhale after holding your breath for too long. I should have left the ballroom when the first waltz ended. That's what I'd planned. Slip away gracefully to the gardens or the northern gallery where I could breathe without being watched. But I didn't. Something rooted me there, something I wasn't ready to name, but couldn't deny. I remained near the edge of the dance floor, pretending to study the orchestra, pretending to enjoy the flute of champagne someone pressed into my hand. But I was watching, waiting. The girl in crimson had disappeared into the shifting crowd again, but I knew she was still here. I could feel her, the same way you feel the tension in the air before a storm. And sure enough, moments later, I caught a glimpse of that dark mask and the unmistakable way she moved, unrushed, entirely self-contained, like the room adjusted to her presence rather than the other way around. I should have looked away, pretended I hadn't seen her, but I didn't. I let my eyes follow her as she moved toward the edge of the floor, near the line of dancers forming again for the next traditional sequence. She wasn't paired yet. Neither was I. The chamberlain's voice rang out above the music, inviting unaccompanied guests to join the structured formation. This dance would be a rotational one, partners switching at intervals, hands meeting only briefly before moving on. I had no excuse to refuse. No title granted immunity from duty, so I stepped forward. My place was already known. The nobles closest to me bowed and shifted, opening a path like always. I took my position in the line, allowing myself one last glance across the floor. And there she was, diagonal from me. Not beside me. Not yet. But close. The opening notes began, slow and deliberate, a classical piece everyone in the room had rehearsed since childhood. My first partner was a young lord from the southern provinces, pleasant, forgettable, efficient in his steps. I smiled, nodded, said all the right things. Then the turn came. I stepped to the left, rotated, and my hand was offered to the next. Another face I half recognized. We spun together, arms out, fingertips just brushing. I was barely present. I was waiting. One more turn. Another partner. Another half conversation that meant nothing. Then the shift again. One step. One pivot. And suddenly, her. I saw her before our hands met. Her eyes, dark beneath the simple black mask, locked on mine like she'd been tracking me through the room just as much as I had her. She didn't smile. Neither did I. Our hands reached across the invisible line, touched, and everything inside me lurched. Her skin was cool beneath the gloves, but her fingers were warm where they met mine. It should have been brief. A simple, polite contact before we rotated again. But she didn't let go immediately. Neither did I. The music guided our bodies, pulling us through the choreography like everyone else. But we weren't like everyone else. Not in that moment. You look like you want to be anywhere but here, she said quietly, her voice barely audible over the violins. And yet, I replied, here I am. Obligation. Mostly. And the other part? Her eyes didn't leave mine. Curiosity, I said. Yours or mine? That depends, I murmured. Are you curious? She tilted her head slightly. I came here to disappear. But you keep finding me. Maybe you're not as hidden as you think. Or maybe you're better at noticing than most. The steps carried us into the next motion, a slow spin, then a reverse. Our hands parted, but I felt the absence like a cold wind against my palm. We moved again, other partners filling the space, but I wasn't paying attention. I counted the measures, counted the turns, waited for the cycle to return. And when it did, when we faced each other again, I saw something new in her eyes. Not surprise. Not hesitation. Permission. You're not like the others, I said. No, she replied. I'm not trying to be. The next step brought us closer than before. I could smell something faintly floral on her, jasmine or gardenia, or something that clung to her skin like secrets. You don't seem to care who's watching, I whispered. Should I? Her voice wasn't defiant. It was sincere.
Come.
She looked at me like I was a riddle she intended to solve slowly, carefully. Most people do, I said. Especially around me. I'm not most people. And I believed her. I felt the music fading. The final notes were drawing near. One last turn. One final touch. I wanted to ask her name. Wanted to give her mine. But somehow it felt too soon. As if the not knowing was part of the magic, part of the tension stretching between us like an invisible thread. The dance ended. Applause scattered across the room like petals. I exhaled for the first time in what felt like minutes. She stepped back, bowing slightly, elegant, effortless. I mirrored the gesture. Thank you, she said softly. For what? Not pretending. I opened my mouth to reply, but another voice cut in, a courtier approaching, requesting my presence for a toast. I nodded, forced a smile, turned toward duty. But when I looked back, she was still there, still watching, still not leaving. And somehow I knew this was just the beginning. I had danced with dozens of masked strangers before, always with the same smile, the same poise, the same careful distance between skin and soul. But after her, everyone else felt muted, distant, irrelevant. The moment our hands parted at the end of the group dance, something shifted inside me, a thread pulled taut between us that refused to let go even as we stood apart. I made the rounds like I was supposed to. I accepted another flute of champagne, listened to a general's daughter recite the details of her embroidery, nodded politely as a foreign delegate bowed too deeply. But I wasn't really there. I was aware of only one thing, her eyes, still finding mine across the room with an ease that unnerved me. I'd never felt so exposed while so thoroughly clothed. I caught her gaze again, near the base of the grand staircase. She wasn't speaking to anyone now. She was just watching.
Me.
Or maybe waiting. I didn't hesitate. I crossed the floor, ignoring the murmurs that followed me, the way nobles turned their heads slightly to note who drew my attention. Let them wonder. Let them gossip. None of it mattered, not compared to the pull I felt toward this girl I still hadn't named. When I reached her, she didn't speak right away. She simply looked at me, like she was trying to memorize the way my mouth curved when I was trying not to look too interested. Do you always make eye contact like that? I asked. Like what? She replied, voice low. Like you're trying to set something on fire. Maybe I am. That made me laugh, breathless and startled. And what would you do if it worked? Run, she said, but the smile that touched her lips was slow, deliberate. Or stay and watch the flames. I should have said something clever. I should have walked away. But instead I said, come with me. She didn't ask where. She didn't hesitate. She followed. We walked together toward one of the side galleries that branched off from the ballroom, a space filled with statues and soft candlelight, away from the clamor and the scrutiny. My heels echoed against the marble for a moment before being swallowed by the plush rug that lined the hallway. We stopped near a gilded column. Silence settled between us, But it wasn't uncomfortable. It was thick.
Charged.
Like something unsaid was building between us with every second that passed. "Is this where you bring all your masked strangers?" she asked, leaning lightly against the column. "Only the ones who dance like they're hiding something," I said. "And what do you think I'm hiding? That you don't belong here. Or maybe that you do, and you hate it." "Maybe both," she said. I studied her closely. Her mask was plain compared to the others. No jewels, no feathers, just black satin with a sharp edge to it. It suited her. Elegant, but bold. Subtle, but unignorable. "So," she said after a moment, "do I get to know your name now, or do I have to keep guessing? Love what you've seen so far, and want to help me keep creating these awesome stories on this channel? Then subscribe and hit the bell. Your subscription supports the channel and makes sure you get more exciting stories." I hesitated, not out of caution, but out of awareness. Telling her felt like handing her something real, something fragile. "Elena," I said. "Princess Elena of Viridian." I waited for the usual flicker I saw in people's eyes when they realized who I was. Ambition, fear, awe. But she just nodded. "I know. Of course you do. It's hard not to when everyone here looks at you like you're already wearing a crown." "And you?" I asked. "Do you look at me like that?" She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she reached up slowly, removed one of her gloves finger by finger, and offered her bare hand. "Mila," she said, "of House St. Vincent." My stomach turned at the name. Of course. A ducal house. A powerful one. Allies of the throne for 3 generations. Her parents were probably mingling with mine right now. "Our families know each other," I said. "They do. And yet we've never met. I don't make many appearances." "Why tonight?" "Because I wanted to see if the palace was as dull as I remembered." "And?" I asked, stepping just slightly closer. "Was it?" She looked at me for a long moment. "Until about half an hour ago." Her honesty was sharp. It pierced through every layer of pretense I'd worn all night. "You're dangerous," I said. "Only if you let me be." "And if I already have?" Her breath hitched just slightly, but I caught it. I could feel the heat between us now, no longer simmering, but rising.
Slowly, steadily.
I reached up, brushed a stray wisp of hair from my temple, and her eyes followed the motion like she wanted to do the same. "You don't seem impressed by all of this," I said, gesturing vaguely to the gold and the chandeliers and the sea of silk. "Should I be?" "Most girls would be." "I'm not most girls," she said, echoing her words from earlier. I didn't want this moment to end. I wanted to ask her everything, what she read late at night, what she dreamed of becoming, what she wanted to do instead of curtsying. But the sound of someone clearing their throat nearby jolted us both. A steward stood a few feet away, looking sheepish. "Apologies, Your Highness," he said. "Your father is requesting your presence near the balcony." I didn't answer immediately. I looked at Mila. She raised an eyebrow, amused. "Duty calls." "Don't move," I said. "I'll be back." "I'm not going anywhere," she said. And for the first time all night, I believed someone meant it. I should have known better than to believe she'd wait. Court duties rarely last more than a few minutes. Polite words, empty praise, a toast, a bow. I kept my answers short, my smile sharp, my posture perfect, all the while thinking only of the girl in crimson standing beneath the chandelier where I left her. But when I returned, she was gone. The space where she stood was empty, as though she'd never been there at all. My eyes scanned the ballroom, searching for that bold silhouette, that sharp black mask, that crimson gown that looked like it had been poured over fire. Nothing. I walked slowly through the crowd at first, careful not to draw attention. I couldn't appear panicked. Couldn't look like a princess chasing shadows. But inside, I was unraveling. She wouldn't have just left. Not after the way she looked at me. Not after the things she said. And not after promising she would stay. I circled the room once, then again, nodding absently to passing nobles, ignoring the curious glances from attendants. No trace of her. My mind raced. Had someone seen us talking? Had she gotten spooked? Or worse, Had she only been toying with me from the start?
No. I refuse to believe that.
She had looked at me like I wasn't a princess or a symbol or a strategy. She had looked at me like I was real. I left the ballroom through the north arch, passing the guards with a tight nod. The palace was massive, endless halls, alcoves, balconies. I could spend all night searching and still miss her. But something in me pulled toward the west wing. The old section. Quieter. Less populated. The halls there were lined with portraits, some centuries old, some recent. My portrait hung there too, painted last spring, regal and composed, all poise and sapphire and crown. I quickened my pace. And when I turned a corner into the gallery of lineage, I saw her. She stood alone, her back to me, illuminated by the golden glow of wall sconces. Her gown shimmered like blood under candlelight. She was standing before my portrait, perfectly still. My breath caught. I should have spoken, but I didn't. I just watched her, trying to slow my heartbeat. Then, with slow, deliberate motion, she reached up and removed her mask. I felt it before I saw it. Like the room shifted, like time folded in on itself. Her fingers curled around the edge of the mask and lifted it away, revealing a face I hadn't realized I was desperate to see. Her features were sharp and soft all at once, dark eyes framed by long lashes, high cheekbones dusted with something warmer than blush, and lips that looked like they'd been carved to challenge every rule I'd ever followed. She stared up at the portrait silently, unaware I was behind her. Or maybe she knew. Maybe she wanted me to see her like this, unmasked, alone, vulnerable. I didn't expect it to look so cold, she said suddenly, still facing the painting. Her voice, now unfiltered by the ballroom, was softer, realer. You're beautiful in it. Powerful. But there's nothing behind your eyes. I stepped forward. That's because there wasn't. Not when it was painted. She turned then, slowly, mask still in hand. Our eyes met. Nothing stood between us now. No silk. No metal. No ceremony. Just her and me, and this moment that felt far too delicate to belong to a palace made of stone. You came after me, she said. Of course I did.
Why?
Because you left, I said, and it came out more fragile than I meant. Because you looked at me like no one ever has. Because I think if I let you go, I'll regret it in ways I don't even understand yet. Mila took a step closer. You don't know me. Then let me, I said. Let me know who you are when no one's watching. When the mask isn't hiding you from the world. She looked down at the mask in her hands. I've worn this so long I forgot what it feels like not to. I know the feeling.
Do you? She asked.
You've been trained to be seen. To be adored. Adored isn't the same as loved, I whispered. Admired isn't the same as known. She stared at me for a long moment. And then, she stepped forward again, closing the space between us. We were inches apart now. I could feel the warmth of her skin, the tremble in her breath. Her eyes dropped to my lips. My heart slammed against my ribs. Tell me to stop, she said, so quietly I almost didn't hear it. I didn't. I couldn't. So instead, I closed the distance. Our mouths met in silence, a slow collision of want and fear, and everything we weren't supposed to feel in public. Her lips were soft but insistent, her hands rising to frame my face with a gentleness that made me ache. I leaned into her like gravity had shifted, and she was the new center of it. The kiss deepened, not rushed, but certain. Like we both understood this might be the only honest thing we had left tonight. When we finally parted, breathless and trembling, she pressed her forehead against mine. Your trouble, she murmured. And you're worth it, I whispered. We stayed like that for a moment, still, wrapped in candlelight and secrecy, before the sound of distant footsteps reminded us where we were. Mila pulled back slightly, eyes searching mine. They'll notice I'm gone soon, she said. Then come back with me, I said. As yourself. Not yet, she said, voice steady but sad. I can give you tonight. But after that, I don't know. Then I'll take tonight, I said. And I'll fight for tomorrow. She smiled then, something fierce and soft all at once. You don't even know what you're up against. I said. And you're the only thing I want to fight for. I hadn't slept the night of the ball. After she slipped back into the crowd, her lips still on mine, the echo of her breath still caught in the hollow of my throat, I returned to the ballroom changed. I smiled, I nodded. I danced one more time with the Duke's cousin whose cologne gave me a headache, but I was somewhere else. Or rather, I was still with her. The kiss had wrecked me. Not in the way scandal threatens to wreck a reputation, but in the way fire consumes a field, suddenly, mercilessly, irreversibly. For days after, I caught myself glancing down corridors for her silhouette, listening for her voice during court meetings, wondering if she'd be seated with the other nobles during state dinners. She wasn't. Mila vanished as if the ball had swallowed her whole and left only that kiss behind. I sent word through cautious channels, asking the St. Vincent estate if their daughter might attend one of our garden concerts or moonlit rides or luncheons designed for diplomacy, but her family declined each time, politely but firmly. She's resting, her mother said once, her smile flawless. The ball was too much. I doubted that. Mila didn't strike me as someone easily overwhelmed. More likely, she was protecting herself. From me. From this. Still, I couldn't stay away. I wrote her a letter, brief and signed, folded into a pressed lily and delivered by a maid with more loyalty than good sense. I didn't ask for anything. I just wrote, I haven't stopped thinking about the portrait. Or the fire. 2 days passed. No answer. Then, on the third night, I returned from a council dinner late and found a note folded into the edge of my mirror. There was no seal. No signature. Just 5 words, written in clean, deliberate ink. Meet me at the stables. My heart stopped, then sped so fast I could barely breathe. I didn't change out of my gown. I only pulled a cloak over my shoulders and slipped quietly past the guards stationed at my door. I knew every corridor of the palace, every shadowed hallway, every creaking step to avoid. The stables were quiet, lit only by 2 lanterns swinging gently in the wind. I stepped inside, half mad with anticipation and doubt. And there she was, leaning against one of the stalls, arms folded, wearing a simple riding coat and no mask. Her face was exactly as I remembered it, eyes sharp, mouth unreadable, posture relaxed like she wasn't setting fire to my entire world just by existing. You came, she said. I nodded, unsure I could speak without my voice cracking. So did you? I almost didn't, she admitted. But then I remembered how you looked at me, like I wasn't made of glass.
You're not, I said.
You're made of smoke, and shadows, and something sharp enough to cut through silk and silence. That made her smile, barely. You write like that in all your letters? Only when I'm desperate.
Are you? She asked.
Desperate. I took a step closer. Tell me you haven't thought about that night. About the kiss. About what it meant. I've thought of nothing else, she said. Her voice didn't waver. But thinking about it doesn't make it safe. Since when have you cared about safe? Since I realized what happens if someone sees you looking at me like that. Like what? Like you'd burn down the palace if I ask.
I would, I said.
Don't.
Her voice was softer now.
Please don't promise things you're not allowed to give. And what about you? I asked. You kissed me first. I took off the mask first, she corrected. And you followed. And I wanted you to. But I didn't know it would feel like this. I reached out, touched her wrist, bare skin under my fingertips. She didn't flinch, didn't move. Then let's feel it in secret. Let's be reckless when the world isn't watching. You don't get to be reckless, Selena, she said. You're the next queen.
And she paused.
A problem. No, I whispered. You're the only thing that makes sense. Silence stretched between us. Then she exhaled, closed her eyes for a moment, and nodded once. There's a path through the gardens, she said. It leads to the aviary. No guards patrol there at night. You've been studying the palace? I've been studying you. That broke something inside me. I grabbed her hand and pulled her into the nearest stall, where shadows wrapped around us like curtains. We didn't kiss. Not yet. But our foreheads touched. Our hands stayed locked. And for the first time since the ball, I let myself hope. We met again 2 nights later in the South Gardens. Then again near the fountain court. Once, by chance, in the library, where our fingers brushed across the spine of the same book and we both laughed, too quietly. These weren't dates. They were collisions. Breathless and brief. Our world had become a rhythm of stolen time and glances that said too much. Every second stretched like it could snap. I learned things about her in pieces. She hated embroidery but loved maps, preferred thunderstorms to sunshine, and once climbed the western wall of the St. Vincent estate just to prove she could. She learned I despised small talk, that I read poetry under my pillow, and that I sometimes hid in the music chamber just to breathe. We were building something. Slowly. In the dark. But it was real. And I didn't want to stop. Not even when I saw the way my mother's gaze narrowed at dinner, or how my ladies-in-waiting whispered a little too long when I slipped away after dusk. Not even when I saw how Mila pulled her hand back faster each time we touched in public. Because the truth was simple. I didn't care. I was falling in love with her. We needed a reason. Something official, something noble and dull enough that no one would look twice. A ride through the hills, Father called it. A gesture of goodwill toward the northern provinces, an opportunity to be seen smiling beside a daughter of St. Vincent, one of our most loyal houses.
It was Mila's idea.
She presented it to her parents first, careful and measured, and then to mine. I watched her speak during the council breakfast, her voice smooth, her posture perfect, her expression unreadable as she explained the need for stronger regional alliances and cultural engagement. No one questioned it. No one saw the fire behind her eyes or the way her gaze slid toward mine for half a second too long when the chamberlain approved the route. The next morning, just past dawn, we departed. 2 carriages. One for appearances. One for us. The first held our attendants and trunks stuffed with formal wear we'd never wear. The second, ours, was smaller, enclosed, draped in silk, with windows that shielded us from prying eyes. The ride was long, winding through the greenest parts of the countryside, past vineyards and wildflower fields, past rivers that shimmered like mirrors. I tried to admire it, tried to absorb the beauty of it all. But I couldn't focus on anything except the girl sitting across from me, her legs crossed neatly, her hands folded in her lap, like she wasn't seconds away from unraveling every part of me. Mila was wearing something simple today. Navy blue riding clothes, hair pinned up but looser than usual. No mask. No fan. Just her. And she was watching me. "You haven't said anything in half an hour," she said. "I'm afraid if I do, I'll say too much. Try me." I leaned slightly forward, resting my elbow on the side panel of the carriage. "You look like a poem I've been afraid to read aloud." Her eyebrows rose, but she didn't smile. "That's the problem with poetry," she said. "People think it's beautiful until it tells the truth." "And what truth do you think I'm hiding?" "That you don't just want me.
You need me."
My breath hitched. I hated how easily she said things like that. Hated how much I wanted her to be right. "Do you think I don't know what this is?" she continued. "You're not flirting with a daughter of the court, Elena. You're asking for a war." "Then let it come," I said. "As long as I can have this." "You won't survive it," she whispered. "Neither will I. But maybe we'll survive each other." That silenced her. The carriage hit a bend in the road, and the motion rocked us slightly, our knees brushing. I didn't move.
Neither did she.
I could hear the horses outside, the creak of the wheels, the wind through the trees. But inside, everything was still. Mila's eyes flicked to my mouth.
I saw it.
Felt it. "Come here," I said softly. For once, she didn't argue. She slid across the carriage in one smooth motion, closing the space between us like a shadow folding into night. Her hand cupped the side of my face, thumb brushing just below my cheekbone. Her breath mingled with mine. And then she kissed me. This wasn't the cautious, candlelit kiss from the gallery. This was hungry. Desperate. Her mouth opened against mine like she'd been waiting days to taste me again, like She couldn't breathe unless I was inside her lungs. I kissed her back with everything I'd been holding in: fear, desire, longing, all of it. My hands found her waist, her spine, pulling her closer until we were tangled together in silk and heat and risk. She broke the kiss first, but barely. Her lips still brushed mine as she whispered, "We're going to be caught." "Let them catch me," I said. "I'll lie. I'll deny. I'll kneel before the gods and swear I never touched you. But I won't stop." "You should," she said, forehead pressed to mine. "You really should." "Tell me to," I whispered. She didn't. Instead, she kissed me again, slower this time, like she was memorizing the shape of my want. When we finally separated, breathless and flushed, I leaned back and looked at her, really looked at her. "What happens when this isn't enough?" I asked. "What happens when I want more than shadows and stolen hours?" Mila didn't answer right away. Her hand found mine, fingers lacing together. "Then we find a way," she said, "even if it breaks us." I wanted to believe her. I did. But when we arrived at the estate where we were to be hosted for the evening, a marble villa nestled between two hills, I saw the way the lady of the manor looked at us. Not with suspicion, but with curiosity. She watched the space between us. The way our hands didn't quite touch. The way Mila stood slightly too close. It was subtle, but it was enough. And I knew then that the walls were beginning to whisper, that the world we were building had cracks we couldn't keep sealing. Still, that night, when I stood on the balcony of my guest chambers, Mila appeared behind me like a ghost I'd summoned by wanting her too much. She didn't touch me, didn't kiss me. She just stood beside me and said, "They'll talk soon. Let them. We have to be careful now." "I've never wanted anything careful," I said. "I want you." Her jaw tightened. But she didn't walk away. "The palace gardens are beautiful at night, too beautiful almost. The kind of beauty that makes you feel small, like even your most urgent desires are just echoes against centuries of silence." The stars hung low over the hedge maze, and the moon painted everything in silver. I stood by the marble fountain, cloaked in velvet, heart thudding louder than the water. Mila was late. Not unusually so. She'd always been careful. But tonight, every minute stretched too long. Every sound behind me made my stomach tighten. I shouldn't have asked her to come. We were being watched. I could feel it. Maybe not directly, maybe not by someone bold enough to confront us yet, but the whispers had started. I'd seen the way Lady Corvina looked at us in the villa. The way my handmaid asked me, just yesterday, if I was feeling lonely lately, her tone too pointed, her eyes too knowing. And I had lied. Again. Like I had lied to my parents, to the court, to myself. Because the truth felt like a weapon I couldn't afford to carry in daylight. But then I heard footsteps, soft, quick, careful. She emerged from the shadows like she belonged to the night, her coat drawn tight around her, eyes searching for me. When she found me, she smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "You're here," I said. "You asked," she replied. "And I always come when you ask." She stopped in front of me, and for a moment, we just looked at each other. I reached for her hand. She gave it to me without hesitation. "You're shaking," I whispered. "So are you." "I'm scared." "So am I." We didn't need to pretend anymore. Not here. Not in this small pocket of the world where nothing else existed. I pulled her closer until our foreheads touched. "I hate how little time we get," I said. "I hate how much I want more." "If they find out, they won't," I interrupted. "They can't." "You don't know that," Mila said, her voice trembling. "You don't see what I see. The way they watch you. The way they guess." "Let them guess," I said. "They've never seen me this alive." She pulled back slightly, her eyes searching mine. "Do you regret it? Any of it?" "Not a single breath," I said. "But you do, don't you?" "No," she said it too quickly. Then softer, "I'm terrified of losing something I never even had permission to want." That broke me. I wrapped my arms around her and buried my face in the space between her neck and shoulder. She smelled like night air and rose oil. Her hands clung to me like I was the only thing keeping her upright. "Tell me you want me," I whispered.
"Say it."
"Just once." She pulled back, barely. Her hands moved to cup my face, fingers trembling. "I want you," she said. "I've wanted you since the first time you looked at me across that ballroom, like I wasn't something you were supposed to inherit or tame. You looked at me like I was already yours." "You are," I said. And then I kissed her. This kiss wasn't stolen. It was claimed. Fierce, aching, urgent. I pushed her back against the ivy-covered wall and kissed her like it was the last time we'd ever have a moment like this, because it might be. Her hands tangled in my hair, her breath hot against my mouth.
We didn't speak. Didn't need to.
The night said everything for us. When we broke apart, we didn't move far. Her forehead stayed against mine, our breaths mixing in the cool air. "We can't keep doing this," she said. "I know, but I don't want to stop." "Then don't." I heard something then.
A sound.
Subtle.
Soft. But there.
My body went rigid. I turned toward the hedge, staring into the darkness. Nothing moved. No voices. No figures. But I felt it, like eyes pressing against my spine. Mila noticed too. She pulled away, composed herself in seconds. "We need to go," she whispered. "Now." I nodded. We slipped back into the palace separately, through different entrances. I didn't see her again that night. The next morning, there was a message waiting for me. Anonymous. No signature. No crest. Just one line. "A princess shouldn't wander in the dark with traitors." My blood ran cold. It had begun. Someone knew, or suspected enough to threaten us. I crumpled the note and burned it in the fireplace before the sun was fully risen. But the fear stayed. The weight of it settled into my bones. And yet, beneath it all, beneath the dread, the shame, the rising panic, was something stronger. I loved her, and I wasn't ready to let her go. The air inside the palace had changed. It was the same stone, the same columns, the same polished floors, but everything felt heavier, tighter, like the walls had begun to listen. Every conversation seemed shorter. Every glance held something behind it. Servants stopped talking when I entered a room. Nobles bowed too quickly. Even my mother, usually so composed, had begun watching me with a kind of deliberate calculation, her silences sharper than any question. I hadn't seen Mila in 3 days. Not properly. Not since the night in the garden. The kiss against the ivy wall, the whispered confession she'd given me like a gift she was terrified to hand over. I had sent a message. Then another. Then a third. No answer. I told myself it was caution. That she was protecting us both. That she was being careful. But something inside me was fraying. I felt it each time I passed a guard who looked too long in my direction. Each time a court lady mentioned St. Vincent in the same breath as a sly smile. The pressure was building. I knew it. And yet, I still went to the music room. Still slipped away during the late hours when the palace was half asleep. Still hoped. That night, I waited longer than usual. The candle on the piano had nearly burned out by the time I heard the door creak open. My breath caught. Then her. Mila. She looked exhausted.
Pale.
Her hair was pulled back too tightly, and there were dark circles beneath her eyes, like she hadn't rested since the last time we touched. I stood quickly. "You're here." "I had to see you," she said. "But I don't know if I should have come." "You should have. Always." "Everything's changing," she said. "They know. Or they're close to knowing. My mother asked me today why I never speak to the young dukes anymore." She smiled, but I could feel the blade in it. "They haven't said anything to me directly." "Of course not. You're still a crown. They can't accuse you until they're certain." I crossed the room to her, reaching out before I could stop myself. My hand touched her cheek. She leaned into it, eyes fluttering closed. "Tell me what you need," I whispered. "I need you," she said. "But I'm scared. I don't want to ruin your life." "You're not ruining it. You're the only thing that's made it mine." She pulled me into her then, arms around my waist, her body trembling. What if this ends badly? She asked. Then we write our names into the story anyway, I said. Even if they try to erase us. We kissed. Desperately. Soft and frantic. Not because we had time, but because we didn't. Her hands tangled in my hair. Mine clutched her waist like I was holding onto the last safe place I had. And then, a voice. From the doorway. Cold. Controlled. Elena. My blood froze. I turned. My mother stood there. Queen Isolde. Regal. Silent. Her expression unreadable, which was worse than rage. Worse than disgust. Mila stepped back instantly. Her body stiffened. Her mask, though invisible, slammed back into place. Mother, leave us, she said, not to me, but to Mila. Mila didn't move.
Now.
Her voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. Mila looked at me, her eyes wide with panic. It's all right, I said.
Go.
Please. She hesitated, then walked past the queen, head bowed. The door closed behind her with a soft click that felt like the end of something. I stood there, hands shaking. You lied to me, my mother said calmly. All this time. You made a fool of your blood, of the court, of me. I didn't lie, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. I just didn't tell you. You were seen. Not once. Not twice. Enough to embarrass every house that ever pledged loyalty to your father. So that's what this is about? I asked, heat rising in my chest. Embarrassment. It's about duty, she snapped. You don't get to chase pleasure while the throne waits. You were born to lead, not to scandalize. I wasn't chasing pleasure, I said. I was falling in love. Silence. A deep, vast silence. Then, coldly, with a girl who could destroy everything. She's not destroying anything, I said. She's the only person who's ever made me feel like I could be more than a symbol. You're a symbol, my mother said. That's what royalty is. We don't get to love. We align. Then I don't want this crown, I said, trembling. Not if it means carving myself into pieces just to fit your vision. Her eyes narrowed. You would throw away your future for her? I would build a new one with her if you let me. I won't. The finality in her voice felt like a guillotine. She turned, walked to the door, and paused. You have until the end of the week to end this. Or I will. And then she left. I stood alone in the music room, surrounded by the ashes of everything I had dared to hope for. My hands still smelled like her skin. My lips still ached from the kiss we didn't get to finish. The war had begun. They kept us apart. I should have expected it. The morning after my mother found us in the music room, Mila was escorted out of the palace under the guise of returning to her estate for rest. Her absence was explained with bland, practiced words, a family illness, a diplomatic retreat, an unspoken agreement between nobles to preserve dignity while masking disgrace. But I knew the truth. I saw it in the way my mother avoided my gaze at breakfast, in the way my father remained silent, his knife scraping the porcelain like thunder. I was no longer trusted. My movements were monitored. My correspondence filtered. The guards who once bowed with quiet respect now watched me like I was something dangerous, like I might explode if left unsupervised. They didn't yell. They didn't chain me. They didn't need to. They used silence and absence. The cruelest kinds of cages. I didn't cry. Not in front of them. I spent hours staring at the window in my chamber, waiting for something, anything, from Mila. A letter. A signal. But nothing came. I told myself she was protecting me, that her silence was strategy, not surrender. But doubt is a slow poison. It spreads beneath the ribs and waits for the right moment to stop your breath. 3 days passed. Then 4. On the 5th, I received an invitation to a formal reception at the estate of House St. Vincent. My hands trembled as I read it. The words were ceremonial, stiff with etiquette, but the meaning was unmistakable.
A test.
A stage. A trap. I told my mother I would attend. She didn't protest. Of course she didn't. She wanted me to see what the world expected of me, wanted me to face Mila in public and remember what I was supposed to sacrifice. The carriage ride felt endless. I watched the countryside blur by, wondering what face she'd wear when I saw her again. Cold? Empty? Regretful? The estate was brilliant as always, all ivory walls and cascading gardens, but I barely noticed. I was led through marble halls filled with lords and ladies who smiled too brightly. I nodded where I should, but I was hunting for her in every shadow. And then she appeared, at the top of the grand staircase, dressed in a soft lilac gown that made her look untouchable. Her hair was pinned up with silver combs. Her expression unreadable. Our eyes met, just for a second. Then she looked away. The pain was instant.
Deep.
I stood frozen in place, while nobles floated around me like petals in a storm. I didn't follow her. Not at first. I waited.
Watched.
And when I saw her step into the solarium alone, I broke every rule. I followed. She was standing by the window when I entered, arms crossed tight against her chest. "You came," she said. "You asked," I replied. "No," she said. "They did. And you let them speak for you now." That hit something. She flinched. "They told me if I stayed away, they'd protect your title, your reputation, your inheritance. So you sacrifice me?" "I tried to protect you," she snapped. "Don't you see? They would have destroyed you. They still might." I stepped closer. "I don't care about the throne." "Well, I do," she said. "I care about what it would do to you to lose it." "I already lost something," I said. "And it hurts more than any crown ever could." Her eyes shimmered. "You're not being fair." "Neither are you." Silence fell between us like ash. Heavy.
Gray.
She turned away. "I've missed you every second." "Then say it louder," I said. "Say it where they can hear." She turned back to me slowly. "You don't understand what they've threatened." "I don't care what they've threatened." "I do," she said, voice breaking. "Because I love you." The words slipped out like a secret too long kept. I froze. My lungs forgot how to function. Mila looked terrified. "I didn't mean to." "Say it again." "Elena." "Say it again." "I love you," she whispered. "God's help me, I love you." I stepped forward and kissed her. Not like before. Not desperate or rushed. This kiss was slow, certain, full of grief and hope and everything we had been forced to bury. When we pulled apart, I rested my forehead against hers. "Then fight," I said. "With me. For us. We won't win. Maybe not. But I'd rather lose everything than pretend this doesn't matter." "They'll make you choose," she said. "Then I'll choose you." Mila was silent. Then she exhaled and nodded once. "All right," she said. "Let's burn the mask." We returned to the reception. Together. Side by side. Every eye turned. Every whisper sharpened. I saw my mother across the room, frozen, stunned. But I didn't stop. I reached for Mila's hand. And she gave it to me. Openly. Without fear. We walked into the fire. And for the first time in my life, I felt free. The ballroom looks different now. Not because they redecorated or changed the lighting or replaced the orchestra, though they have slightly, but because I'm no longer pretending. This time, I descend the staircase not as the obedient heir, not as the perfect daughter, not as the polished image my mother sculpted for 2 decades. I descend as myself. My heart thunders in my chest, louder than the music, but I keep walking. People turn to look. Of course they do. They've been talking about me for weeks. The scandal.
The shame.
The story no one can prove, but everyone believes. But tonight, there is no room for rumors. Tonight, I will confirm every one of them. And I'm not alone. At the bottom of the stairs, waiting by the column where we first locked eyes, stands Mila, dressed in a crimson gown even bolder than the one she wore that first night. No mask, no veil, just her, with her head high and her eyes locked on mine. I don't rush. I take every step like it's a statement. Because it is. When I reach her, I don't hesitate. I take her hand. And the ballroom gasps. Not loudly. Not collectively. But I hear it in the air. A ripple of shock. A shift in the temperature. We walk together toward the center of the dance floor. The music stumbles, then regains its rhythm. Nobles part around us like waves breaking. And then we dance.
Slowly.
Deliberately. A waltz that doesn't follow any of the court's usual patterns. We move the way we want. We look at each other like no one else exists. And for a while, that's true. I've never felt anything like this. I've never felt so alive.
So seen.
So known. Mila holds me like I'm not a symbol, but a person. Like I'm not the crown, but the girl beneath it. Around us, the ballroom keeps turning. I see my mother across the floor, her expression stone. My father beside her, unreadable. But they don't stop us. Not this time. After the second dance, the orchestra pauses. A silence settles. Heavy. Expectant. And I step forward. Not away from Mila, but closer. I take her hands in mine, and I raise my voice just enough for everyone to hear. I was born into duty, trained to follow, to smile, to marry where I'm told. I wore every expectation like a second skin, until one night I saw her, and I forgot how to breathe. Murmurs ripple. Mila squeezes my hand. I don't stop. They say a princess must belong to her people. But I refuse to belong to anyone who asks me to live without love. The crowd is completely still now. Even the musicians have set down their instruments. I turn to Mila, and my voice softens. You changed everything. You showed me how empty I was before I found you. And I don't want a throne or a crown or a legacy that doesn't have you in it. She's trembling.
So am I.
But I fall to one knee anyway. Right here, in the center of the royal ballroom. Mila of St. Vincent, I say, you were never meant to be hidden behind a mask, and I was never meant to rule without you. Will you marry me? For a moment, she doesn't move, doesn't speak. Her eyes fill, her lips part, and then, yes, she says. God's yes. The room erupts. Applause. Shock.
Some gasps.
Some delighted laughter. I stand and pull her into my arms, and we kiss again, unafraid. When we part, I look toward my parents. My mother's mouth is tight. My father is still. Then he nods. A single, slow nod. And I know, this is our beginning. The rest of the night is a blur. People approach. Some with smiles. Some with practiced neutrality. No one dares speak against us. Not tonight.
Not now.
The court may not love us, but they won't stop us either. The next days bring negotiations, ceremonies, uncomfortable conversations. But none of it matters, because we are together, and we're seen. And when I lie beside Mila at night, I no longer feel like I'm hiding. I feel like I've come home. We marry in spring, in the same ballroom where it all began, under the same chandeliers, with different hearts. She walks toward me in white and gold, and I see everything she's become, and everything we've survived. When she reaches me, she leans in close and whispers, "Do you remember the night I took off my mask?" I smile. Yes. You looked like you couldn't breathe. I couldn't, I whisper. And now, I say, kissing her hand, you are the air. Thank you so much for being here and for believing in this channel. If you feel in your heart, you can donate with super thanks so I can focus more and more on this project. Your support helps me keep creating these love stories and bringing them to life for you. See you in the next video.